Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today's Wednesday, November 15th. Hunting season starts 2023, and it's 5:32, so we're going to stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Randy, please.
Okay, Trustee Everson is excused and absent for this evening. Trustee Winslow.
Present.
Trustee Kidda.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas. Our attorney's going to be here a little bit later. On Zoom, we have our Planner Zoning Administrator, Jason McCarthy, and our Superintendent of Public Works, Lenny Bodinas.
Great. Thanks for everybody for being here. Any public comment on emails?
No, nothing on the email.
Okay, just some FOIAs.
Just FOIAs, no public comment.
Yeah. Okay, so tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of November 1st, 2023. We have bills payable in the amount of $220,916.85.
220,000.
20,000, thank you. That would be something, hey, 220 bucks. I did put in there a follow-up on the library rebranding, why they were trying to do that, and the Sheriff's Department activity report from September and October. I also have the U of M close-up report that I added in, and I wanted to point out, just for the public's purposes too, that local leaders, 70%, say that the state is taking too much decision-making authority away from local governments. Well, we know that for sure.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that tomorrow night here with Senator McBroom. And then 61% believe the state holds local governments to a higher standard than it does of itself. 57% said the state does not treat jurisdictions fairly across the board. Just wanted to point that out. So we also have regular meeting minutes from the Peter White Public Library from Tuesday, October 24th, 2024. I think she meant
2023.
And we have October 23 financial statements.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we just need approval of the remainder of the agenda, but we are going to, after talking to our Superintendent of Public Works today, we're going to remove 8B.
Which one?
8B, because that is not ready to happen. We waited until today.
I'll move to accept the agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm not sure if we'll be asked for a special meeting since we've got 3 weeks until our next meeting, but just so you have a heads up, just in case they have to finish that. Because I know they want to try to close some of those buildings. Okay, let's go to we don't have any fire department staff report. I know that he's in the woods too. He was going to ask Mike if he was available, so maybe that didn't work. So we'll move to Public Works.
I think the fire report is in the packet.
It
though.
is,
So
yeah.
you can read that.
Him live.
Yep.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Yep, not a problem. So, with wastewater here, we've just been having some routine grinder pump replacements. That's just kind of an ongoing thing that we have. Just as they get older, we keep replacing them. We did go through our lift station generators. They were inspected and serviced. So Chad did go through. He changed all the oil on all of them and made sure everything is up to par here, especially with the winter coming. When we've been continuing with manhole inspections as we've been having time, just kind of going around making sure everything's looking good. That's just kind of an ongoing job. So once we finish with one area. The next area that we go to would have been like a month or so, or a couple months when we last inspected it. So that's just kind of an ongoing thing. For the water side, we had a connection and inspection of the 6-inch service line at the new Honor Credit Union site, so everything turned out good there. We finished up with our lead service line survey for 2023, so that it was a real productive year for getting that done. So now with the weather kind of going to be changing here within the next week, we're going to be done with that until 2024. One big issue that we had is we had some soft starts out at our well field had failed, so 3 of them have failed. And we're not really sure if we had some power bumps out there or something like that happened. They are older. They are from, I think, like 2006, 2007. So they're probably getting towards the end of their life cycle anyhow. And just power bump was the final nail in the coffin for them. They are quite expensive. They're about $5,000 a piece. Right now, I believe we found a place that is actually rebuilding one or refurbishing one. And we're going to be getting a new one. That way we'll have, all of them will be replaced, will be all ready to go, and we're going to try to keep a spare on the shelf. That way, if one does burn out, we have one that's ready to go to kind of put in its place, and so our well won't be down for any length of time. It's kind of the same thing with the electronics. The lead time on these are a little bit long, but not too bad. So we want to make sure that we always have something available. For our building and grounds, staff has been busy doing routine cleaning. They actually just got done scrubbing the floors and stuff at the Public Works building, and they have been doing other cleaning, just routine around the office and our other outbuildings. Also been raking the leaves at Lions Field. We also had some water bottle filling stations have been installed. So one has been installed at the office, one at Public Works, and I believe one at the fire department. So that's kind of where you can put your water bottle up there and you fill your water bottle up. So a lot of people are using those these days, and it's just very convenient for people to do that. And that's all I have for this month. Any questions?
Ernie, go ahead.
On the lead pipe service survey you're doing, what % are you at right now, Lenny?
I think we are probably, let's see here, I would say we're over half done. So we're actually anticipating by next summer we'll have that whole project complete, which will be about a year or 2 years ahead of schedule. So we've been making some really good headway with that hydro excavator. It was a great purchase and a great machine to use for that particular purpose.
That's all I have.
Question? Anything else? Okay, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Planning, we've got Jason too.
Yep. Good evening. I'm going to go through quite a bit of a list since we didn't have the fire department to take up any time tonight. I'll go through my the longer list. I know I've been kind of shortening things up for you, and this will be a little bit more comprehensive. But earlier in the month, the Planning Commission approved Longyear Realty Corporation's final PUD plan, and they approved phase 1A of that plan. So it's 16 dwelling units of the over 240 that were proposed. We've approved, or the Planning Commission approved, 16 units. And they will be putting together their PUD agreement for the board's review at some point. When I get that, I'll probably send it right to Roger, and we'll get something in place that is amenable to both parties before we bring it to the board for a review. As most people know now, Panera Bread will be open tomorrow. That's kind of exciting. Texas Roadhouse is scheduled to open in the spring of 2024, so they're a little bit further behind. Ride North has completed their move-in, or they're in the process still, but they are open to the public in the former Best Buy location, and we'll be reviewing some signage for them. Looks like either end of this week or early next week, so they'll have a little bit more of an advertising presence there on the exterior of the building. The daycare facility is coming along great. They got their brickwork done. It looks like they're going to do a mix of brick and some siding. Honor Credit Union is just about enclosed as well, along the highway in the former R&N Distributing Building, or Michigan Sales, however you choose to remember it. We also approved a zoning compliance permit along with the fire department's review for a tanning business to go into the Westwood Mall. The Planning Commission also approved a site plan for Cross General Contracting. Now, they're based out of Munising, but they have desired to have a location here in Marquette Township. So that location is 250 Northwoods Road, which is up, above, and behind the Barrel and Beam, if you can imagine that property. So actually, it's up and behind the former Best Buy location, or what is now the Ride North business as well. So that is a 1,656 square foot trade shop and office, and still working on a couple of contingencies on that site plan approval, but for all practical purposes, it looks like that's going to be a go. So we're excited to have them in our community. They are a general contractor, and we all know that the trades are something that we desperately need in our community if we're going to build more housing. Gordon Food Service was also approved recently for an exterior remodel. They'll probably do some interior work too, but more so on our side, a front entrance redo, more of a presence, I guess, in the front of the building at the entrance. Just some modernization and bringing it up to speed with some of the other prototypes that they have. And then Wells Fargo also has a minor interior remodel that we approved recently. We approved a temporary use permit for essentially the Christmas tree, and it really surrounded, not that we were going to deny a permit for the Christmas tree, but the signage that's there, we wanted to make sure that we address that because signage should be approved and applied for, and we just kind of rolled the signage into that permit to save them some money there. Eric, our planner Powers, reported that he would be getting business license renewals out by the end of the month. And on a couple of other notes, we had a property maintenance issue pop up again out on Lake Enchantment. It's kind of been an ongoing situation out there, but we are going to be re-engaging with that property owner. And then, as you may or may not know, there was a fire out on County Road 550 at a property that we've been working on for quite some time without much success. And that's something that we have reached out to the county, and Manager Kangas may be able to detail that a little bit more, but we're looking for some additional assistance with that particular property due to the site and situation out there. It's a little bit more than perhaps what we might be able to handle, or even the property owner can handle. So we hope to make a connection there and make some progress as soon as possible. We also approved some short-term rentals over the last meeting. So 3 new short-term rentals in total for the month. And I believe the Planning Commission is going to want to address that in some fashion. So we're up around 30 that we have approved throughout the entire community, so 54 square miles. Most of them are centered in Trowbridge Park, but fairly dispersed. And then the other ones are out on County Road 550 for the most part, too. So the ones along County Road 550 are more in the recreational area, in that particular area. And then the majority of them, though, are in the Trowbridge Park area. We did receive one additional application that we'll be putting on the Planning Commission's agenda to have them schedule a public hearing on our meeting in December. So that's kind of a longer report, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. But that concludes what we kind of went through today as far as ongoing projects, current construction, and any other issues that we might be dealing with.
Yeah, that's a lot. Remind us what's going in Ride North, what they're going to be doing. for the public?
So they're an outdoor adventure. They're going to have snowmobiles and side by sides and things of that nature. So it's a great location for them. A lot of traffic, and if you haven't been in there, if you've been in there when Best Buy was there, it was a big building, but now it looks even larger in there. I don't know how to really explain it, but it just looks massive, and it's really neat how they have all of their snowmobiles and motorcycles and side by sides kind of situated in the building.
And then
So I think it's going to be an exciting place to shop for those that are into those types of toys.
So the rest of their business will stay up in Negaunee Township. That's going to be two locations.
Yeah, I think Kubota moved into the former location in Negaunee Township, and their RVs moved up to the former Shopco location in Ishpeming. And then the former Camping World, from what I understand, is going to be potentially Marquette County's first quick trip. We did review a site plan for that at our corridor meeting a couple months ago, but I'm not sure how far that's progressed on their end up there in Ishpeming.
Okay. What else? Ernie?
On the Quick Trip building, is there heard anything was going in that location? On the Kubota one?
In the Kubota, not tracking.
He said they were going to be up in the
I mean,
Camping
the
World one.
current location where Kubota was, they moved out. That's all empty now.
Oh, yes, sir. The building's for sale. So I don't have any updates on that.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thanks. Appreciate the long laundry list. That's a good one.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for zooming in. Okay, we'll just pass our attorney for right now. Community linkage. We've got some stuff going on. We had talked once, a couple meetings ago about the veterans exemptions. I do have better numbers. For 2022, the total is $24,231 in Marquette Township for veterans exemptions. That's the tax amount that became exempt for us. And I mentioned at the beginning, we've got a town hall meeting here with Senator McBroom tomorrow night at 6 p.m. We're going to talk about, he wants to explain his position and the background on some energy legislation that does affect local control, and it will affect what they're saying from a couple other sources that'll cause our rates to go up when they're supposed to go down. So that's been the battle. It's supposed to be energy saving, and it's going to cost the users more from what I've been told. So if you want to stop by tomorrow night, it's an open meeting, 6 p.m. here in the community room. And then Saturday, the 18th, this week at 10 to 2, is the Sands Electronics Recycle. If you remember, we've been doing that, or they've been doing that for quite a few Saturdays, once a month. So if you've got TVs and VCRs and that kind of stuff, you can recycle it free. I believe some of the items might be $5. It depends on what they are. I didn't bring the list with me, but for the most part, remote controls and keyboards and that kind of stuff, you can just drop off. And they have Sands Township got a grant to cover this. And when the grant runs out, the ability runs out. So get your stuff in now. I did get an email today that the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority has hired a new director. His name's Mike Stannard, Stannard, and he will be taking over December 1st for Brad, because Brad's gone now. And Mike is an employee, so he's just being promoted. He's moving up. So there's good to that when you can do that internally. They've got that history knowledge that you can't buy, So I don't know him. I've never met him. I did see the previous applicants, but I'll have to go Well, I can't even go to one of their meetings because they're the same time ours are, so I'll see them on Zoom. And then I also went to the road commission meeting Tuesday night, yesterday. And they were doing a road abandonment. I didn't get the background. They don't give backgrounds on their public hearings like we do. You know, we usually introduce it, so I might have to suggest that to them to give us some background. But the folks that have been living there since 1967 didn't believe that it was a county road, and they built homes and stuff along this two-track, and apparently somebody thinks it's a county road, so they took public comment last night, and actually it was Monday night, and they're gonna do some more research and then get back to them and have another meeting. So that was kind of interesting. It's right up around Forestville. County Road, there's two of them, HD and HDB are the two roads that are kind of in question, and 3 or 4 property owners involved. So I'll keep you up to date on that. That's all I had. What are you hearing? Anything on the streets, from the stores? Linda?
So I'm just, people are still wondering about parking for Christmas decorations. Has the sheriff gotten back to us?
Kind of, but not definitively. We talked about some signage.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard back. John, did he suggest to you that we go ahead and order the signs? Is that what we're gonna do?
Yes, unfortunately, it kind of disappeared from my radar, and I need to put it back on.
Okay. Well, we should have time. And so they're kind of talking about having a no parking zone on one side, and when the deputy's free, that.
Not a no parking
Or
zone, a towaway zone.
Pardon me, thank you. Well, I didn't mean the sign would say no parking, but I was thinking no parking area. And the deputy will patrol as he can, you know, to try to keep it clear for vehicles.
Okay, well, step 1.
Yep. Maybe next meeting. What else? Anything in the community? Okay. I did add in the information on the Governor's Service Award. I thought that was pretty good. It was in the Mining Journal. We have a member of our team, as it were, the deputy treasurer, who got Community Impact Award, Andrew Rickauer. I just wanted to kind of recognize him. And then also from the UP is the Volunteer of the Year Award. It's Marcia Gonstad that works on the trails pretty much in Big Bay up in Powell Township. So not too bad to have 2 recognized volunteers from our communities. They have to go down to Detroit at the Fox Theater and get their awards shortly.
So did Andrew get it for being the director of United Way?
Well, it says Suicide Survivors Fund, so that it's either a part of the United Way or a separate one that he belongs to.
Oh, he's the director of anyway.
Yeah, but I don't know if the Survivors Fund is part of that, you know, or if he does that on his own. Didn't get a chance to see him, but I did want to recognize both of them, especially Andrew. Let's see, so we can jump into the policies. Consider the fire department personnel hires. Our fire chief is not in town, but he did give us a list. And we are asking that you approve the 3, Jeff Patrick, Austin Maynard, and who's the third one? Benjamin, yes. Benjamin Baumgart.
I move to accept the recommendations of the fire chief and township supervisor to hire the 3 candidates listed. Support.
Questions?
So my question is, do we have 3 people leave, or are we adding 3 additional people?
Well, the EMT side has got people available kind of all the time, so it doesn't hurt, you know, positions open.
So you think
Doesn't hurt
we're
to-
adding more people?
He did have a couple people, you know, recently retired, probably this year.
okay. Yeah,
We're still kind of holding around that 30, 31.
so some people must have retired, as you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
We should probably recognize those people when they retire.
Yeah, that's up to them, I suppose.
He's gotta let us know. We don't know. We don't know.
It's just like Barry, it's no different than
We don't have
Barry.
any buttons.
Yeah.
What's up, John?
I'm, just like we recognize people in the water department when they retire, I mean, although we might have to ask Dan to give us the names, but
Yeah. Okay, I'll check with him when he gets back. He's gonna actually come in Monday and talk to me.
I just wanted to indicate I was impressed favorably by the background of the people that are now being hired. And I thought they ought to be welcome in our township. They're bringing a lot of background.
Yeah, and it's hard to, when everybody's doing their jobs all the time, it's hard to get them to stop and say, even if it is the retirements, even the new hires, to get them in here so we can meet them, the public can see them. So when they show up at their door for some reason, they kind of know who they are. So I'll try to remind Dan to do that kind of stuff.
Along with that, it's nice to recognize them, but I wouldn't force them to come to a board meeting.
Oh, no.
If they don't want to.
Yeah, we've had a couple that have said, no thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So next up is to consider the health insurance plan renewal. Is that Mr. John?
Yep, so we budgeted a 10% increase in premium costs for the year. That was all in the consensus budget, which you will be considering at your next meeting after the public hearing. The Blue Cross change was 8.69%, and then the Optimed gap coverage was no change, so the net premium increase was 7.25%, which is within our budget. We're proposing no change to the benefit. Staff would continue to pay 20% of their premium cost, and the impact is $1,276.72 per month. And the recommendation is to renew under the current benefit plan.
Ernie?
Yeah, the per month cost, that's spread across all employees then, correct?
The funds, yeah.
Correct. So whatever fund your wages go to, that's the fund your benefits go to.
I'll move to renew the Blue Cross, Blue Shield of Michigan, and OpMed Health Gap policies for 2024 with VAST at a net premium increase of 7.25%, which is an additional $1,276 and 72 cents a month, subject to the collective bargaining consensus and an employee premium cost share of 20%.
Support.
Any questions for the manager? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Let's do the next one and then we can get Roger.
We can wait to the end for
Get
him.
organized. Consider Civic Plus web renewal. John?
This would be the easy button. If you want to continue with the current website you have, the renewal would be the amount stated of $2,758.96, of which $350 is for the open platform migration.
What does that mean, open platform?
I'm not an IT expert, so I can't tell you. My recommendation is to renew as is because we don't have a plan to replace it.
I'll move to approve the Civic Plus renewal in the amount of $2,758.96, subject to the attorney review.
Support.
Questions, Ernie?
Will this meet the needs of the township, John, that we're moving forward in that too, John?
Well,
I'm putting you on the
it
spot.
depends who you ask, because there's a lot of different expectations out there, and government hardly ever meets all of them. Does it generally? Yes. We're not planning on changing anything significant. We will just continue to work on the improvements we can with the staff we have.
And I'll comment, I think our new website that it's been like 2 or 3 years now we've had this, is a lot easier for people to navigate. And it's a lot easier for staff to upgrade or, put stuff on than the old one was. So that's my comments of me dealing with it, so I would support approving that. And plus, the Civic Clerk software that I use integrates into this, so.
So I was just gonna say,
Keep in mind, the website we have was provided to us for free. We only pay the annual maintenance agreement costs, so.
and we did just have a phone call or a Zoom call from the Civic Plus person that's our Connect. And John and Randy and I, asked him questions and he explained some stuff. So they reached out to us and said, how's it going? So we actually made a couple recommendations, one of which he said they've been kicking around, but they hadn't implemented yet. So the fact that we mentioned it is gonna be good, if they decide to go through with it.
And that was on the Civic Clerk side, not on the Civic website side.
Right.
But still, they integrate together, so.
Yeah, so that can be, I appreciated that they reached out. How many companies do that anymore? We had a good discussion, so I think it's working good.
Thank you.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I should have asked you, Roger.
I did review the contract and sent a memo, I think, to you and the manager on that. There's nothing unlawful or illegal in it. It's a fairly oppressive contract when you deal with an entity of this size. They frequently are. But as the manager has indicated, if you want to continue with them, that's the choice. Well, we learned, it was in 2020, because I had to go back and compare what we signed at that point. And we attempted to make some fairly minor revisions and were pretty much told to take a hike, that it was a take it or leave it proposition on the language of it. So having said that, if we were drafting the contract, there are things we would not put in it, but there's nothing unlawful about the contract. Keep in mind, if next year you were to decide you do want to consider getting out of it or going, exploring other options, November 1st is your termination date that you have to give notice by. Otherwise, you're going to get an automatic renewal with a 5% price hike.
For next year, we'd have to have something in place too if we wanted to try.
You need a plan, yes. You can't go without a website in this day and age.
Okay, that, John?
I know you already called the question, but
Not yet.
No, we haven't.
Well,
Or, yeah, we did.
you asked for the yes votes. With that in mind, what the attorney just stated, if there's a dissatisfaction with the website we have, we probably need to be starting that discussion in January.
At least.
So keep that in mind.
I don't remember calling the vote, so call it again.
Yeah.
Just to be safe.
Colored it in, and that's when I got the look from Roger.
I
because
don't remember
was gonna-
voting for it
There
either.
was a yes vote, but no vote.
Well, just call it again,
again.
so we're fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you twice.
There's never a problem calling it
That's
twice.
right.
But there is a problem if we don't call it and we move on.
Well, and while I was thinking of it, I looked over to see, and Roger was writing, so I thought maybe he's not ready, but he did have input with lots of emails. Okay, the millage request from Marissa is next. We kind of talked about this a couple times. We had the folks here last meeting or meeting before to explain this, so this is another part of it. Take it away, Ernie.
Okay, what it is, if you remember, a year ago, they sent a request for the board to move the collection of taxes from December to the summer. And they're gonna pay us $2.50 for every parcel we have for doing it. That's fine. We did it with no problem. I thought it was a continuation. It's not the way it's laid out. We have to do this every year. They'll send a request and we have to then approve it. I have no problem recommending to the board to do it every year until something changes, but they're still gonna give us $2.50 per levy, per parcel. I think it came to around $5,600 this year for us just to move the collection from December to July, which is relatively very little work for us at all. And that, I just have to make sure it's on the tax statement, and that's all. Other than that, that's it.
The only difference, Treasurer Johnson, is people notice their summer tax bills are higher than
Yeah.
they were in the past, so explaining it to them is part of it, and then the winter one will be a little bit less.
I move to authorize the treasurer to sign the 2024 summer tax collection agreement with Mesa.
Or
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'll get that sent in tomorrow.
Okay. Roger, do you want to jump in?
Sure. It's been a pretty busy month. Started off with a procedural flaw in a conditional use permit that was granted by the Planning Commission that's going to have to be revisited. I'm presuming that you've already voted on the Heritage Silos matter, but there's been a,
We removed it.
oh, okay,
Yeah. Lenny caught me before the meeting. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't say
It's not ready yet.
okay.
It's not ready.
Because I didn't know the status of that. But basically, from the legal perspective, the bills of sale have been completely drafted. When it is ready, the agreement has always been with the planned unit development proposal that we would take over the water lines and the sewer lines, as we've done in other projects. The documents are drafted, and actually, just given the high holy season we're in the midst of, they've been approved by the developer's attorney, and they have been signed and are in escrow. They will not be accepted by Marquette Township until we are notified that everything is completely satisfactory. But when that occurs, then we will accept them, and they will then belong to us. The reason we don't want to accept them beforehand is because there may be some loose details that we learn of or weren't aware of, or learn through final inspections that need to be corrected. And if we accept ownership of them, well, then it's our problem.
John?
So the delay on this has been the communication with the SCADA provider that the township uses, providing the developer the cost of incorporating this lift station into our supervisory control and data acquisition system. I think I got that right, SCADA. Until that SCADA is up and running and has been tested, we don't feel the system is complete, and we can't accept a bill of sale on the wastewater system. So that's really the big kicker. I understand that the developer is probably frustrated it hasn't been done yet, but our provider is the one that has to provide that opinion or that estimate of cost, and until that is done, we can't really do much more. There's been quite a bit of communication, just not a whole lot of progress.
Ernie?
On the lift station, most of our lift stations now all have a uninterrupted power supply, so they don't quit if we lose power. Is that one?
I wouldn't say that's 100% factually correct, because the standby power generator, on-site generators have an automatic transfer switch, but it's not uninterrupted. So if the power goes out and the pump's supposed to be running, there's a slight delay while that transfer switch kicks in, turns on the generator, and then the generator can start running the pumps again. It's about as close to uninterrupted as you can get, to be fair to your point. This one does have a generator on site. That was a requirement of our plan, and that will be a requirement of the Longyear development, because they have a lift station as well.
Is there enough capacity in that for any future development in that area, or is that gonna be at there?
I believe that that's probably built out. This lift station is in the back of the development because that's the low point. Is it possible? Maybe. I would say the chances are slim. because the majority of the surrounding property is being preserved as undeveloped.
That's my questions.
And additionally, it's right on the boundary with the city limits. So it can only develop in one direction, and keep in mind, when the planning commission approved the PUD, there are a lot of conditions and criteria of what needs to be complied with in terms of recreational open space and so forth. So there's going to be very limited opportunity just from where this geographically is located on what direction it could go from there. It's literally on the edge of the township.
I was only concerned with the lift station, if it was sufficient, that's all.
Right next door in the city is the golf course, which, if that's developed, is it possible? I suppose, I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. Also, there is gravity sewer from the high point of this development out to Grove Street, so there's no anticipation of something coming from Grove Street into the lift station.
That's a good point. Yeah, and staff is gonna take a better part of a day to make sure the whole system is running and functioning and testing. The generator works and everything before we can get those bills of sale too. They have to go through all
Some of that's been done. We just need to make sure that the communications with our existing system work once it's completed.
We're at that point, okay. Okay, what else?
Well, we then had a question arise, kind of a procedural question on appointment of firefighters and officers, and a personnel policy issue that will probably have to be revisited around the first of the year, just on content of fire department personnel policy. I did review the Civic Plus renewal contract. I reviewed the sheriff department contract renewal, and the bigger news is, as of this afternoon, we've tentatively resolved the Meyer and the Walmart tax tribunal appeals. That was not your typical dark store situation. There were errors that were generated. It's our position that that was the fault of the county who prints our tax bills. A couple of the prior tax tribunal settlements were not integrated under the Headley capping. So there are some corrective revisions that need to be made to bring those back to the level they should have been taxed at since the 2021 settlement of Walmart and the 2020 settlement of Meyer. That will be undertaken in paperwork probably yet this week. But we have a handshake consensus on what that looks like. Aside from that, I'm probably overlooking something or another, but those were the big things on the on my desk in the last week and a half.
You helped me with 2 FOIA requests that came in last week.
That's true too. We had a couple of FOIA requests, one pretty straightforward, the one that had a couple of nuances to it. And those have now gone out.
Not yet. One is still, I gotta redo it, but one has gone out and one needs to be sent, so, but we're within the time frame.
It's gone out off of my desk.
As far as he's concerned.
Not off of my desk yet.
I am pulling all the all of the policies together, and when we decide next year, hopefully January, we do a work session, we'll pull all of these together. And Dan's coming in Monday to talk to me about the personnel manual, make sure we have the right one. There are at least 7 versions that we can kind of identify between the two of us.
Fire department one,
What did I
right?
say?
You said the
Well,
person.
their personnel.
Yeah,
Yeah. 'Cause I said
it's
I'm
not
gonna
ours,
meet-
yeah.
We're gonna meet Monday, I said. So anyway, you'll be seeing those. We'll have a bunch of them. And my thought is to just put all of them in a binder and have them available. So when we have a question, we have someplace to go before we go to Roger. And then if we wanna change something, then we go to Roger. So we don't have to make him go and look them all up, because we don't have the right document. So, hopefully that'll save us some time. Is that it?
Yeah, for the most part, on the personnel policy issues for the fire department, it appears reasonably likely that there were, back when the township was engaged in some litigation involving the fire department several years back now, that some changes were recommended to the policy but may not have been adopted, to the best of my knowledge. And I was not involved because, keep in mind, that was an insurance coverage claim, so an attorney was provided for the township in that matter, and that attorney was involved, well, one of two attorneys was involved in recommending some changes, and that didn't ever cross my desk. But other than that, I have copies of what those recommendations were, but I have no evidence that those were ever acted upon.
And we have some date issues with some of them. 2006, 2007, 14, I have a red line version.
15, 16.
So it's gonna narrow down that part of it. And then general discussion about the rest of the policies. We'll go through policy governance policies and make sure we're up to date on that. So we'll spend a couple hours working on them, January maybe. So the rec committee met, right? That's Dan.
Dan
I don't
raised-
know that they did just meet. Anything? Didn't they meet? I thought it said in the meeting.
Well, I don't know that they're looking for new members. I think that's what Dan,
We've got one.
that was the top,
Member.
yeah. At Planning Commission, I think they said they were looking for new members.
I'm gonna bring the committee recommendations to you on the 20th, because I've got, 3 positions open. It was 4, thanks to John, it's only 3 now. So we'll add those up, and I've got just a couple to appoint, so, if they decide to come and visit us.
So when you do that, someone asked me to reapply for the committee for Community Day. Does
just
that,
got that today.
does that really have to be a committee? Does that really have to
We
still
don't
be a
have-
formal committee?
No, we don't have
So
any
we,
bylaws or.
so we could get rid of that, right? I mean, get rid of that appointing, not appointing.
Yeah, that won't be anything I have to do. But I
Perfect,
just
because
heard about it
someone
today.
did ask me to reapply.
It's just kinda like, if somebody wants to come and help.
Yeah, and we want help, right, yeah.
I think when we said when we were gonna do that committee, it wasn't formal, but you would basically dissolve and reform again in next year, so.
Right, yeah,
If
so,
somebody wanted to do it this year, they don't have to come back.
correct, but yeah, so we can just do an open invite and not be all formal and take stuff, minutes.
Because you and Dan are in charge anyway, you're doing the whole thing. So
With a
if you
lot of
wanna
help,
find somebody-
with a lot of help from
Yeah.
everyone, yeah.
That was great this year.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it was fun. Okay, so we don't know about that. I'll have to ask Dan. Roads, did roads meet?
Rhodes did meet, but I was unable to attend that meeting.
Okay, we don't have any public. Any announcements from anybody? Randy?
Yeah, so it looks like that, I really wanted to move the elections to one site, but it doesn't look like that's gonna happen at least till August next year, because legislator just adjourned and the new precinct limit got moved up to 5,000, which I could have combined precincts, but it's gonna be active 90 days after they adjourned. So that's gonna put us into February, and we got a February 27th election, so that's not gonna happen. So precinct 1 will still be at the church, precinct 2 will be in this building, and hopefully my plan will be to combine precincts by the August election. So we'll have everything here in August, so. But that's gonna require the election commission to meet and change the precinct and location of the voting place. Early voting will take place 9 days before the presidential election, starting the Saturday before. That will be here at the Township Hall. I don't know what room yet, either in this room or it'll be in the community room. But we'll be partnering with Powell Township for that. excuse me. And all the voters will get a notice on that. I'm not sure if we're gonna be sending it or the county will. I have to find that details out yet, but all the registered voters in the township will get a mailing that informs them where early voting will be.
And that's August or November?
It's gonna be for February, August, and November. Yeah, any federal or state elections moving forward have to have 9 days early voting. If it's a local election, we're not required to do early voting, although we probably will, so we don't confuse voters, but it's just additional cost.
And then Powell partners with us for all three?
Yeah, they will be, yeah. So Powell will send workers down and they'll cover an appropriate amount of shifts that they're, like if there's 40 shifts to cover, they'll cover 10 and we'll cover the rest. So I'm working with their clerk and coordinating workers for early voting.
Lots of extra work for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, and I'm looking at getting out by middle to late December. You're gonna be getting an application, if you're on the absentee voting, that will, you'll have a check mark for permanent ballot list, and then it'll tell me what ballot you want for February, because the presidential primary, there's 2 ballots. There's a Democratic one and there's a Republican one, and you have to tell us when you send that thing back what one you want. I'm not a mind reader. So you'll be getting that hopefully around the 1st of the year, and like I said, that election will be February 27th late. So that's where we're at. We're gearing up for 24. There'll be 3 elections for sure. I have not heard anything about any elections for May, so hopefully there's only 3.
We get a lot of practice in, if nothing else,
Yeah.
by November. Any other announcements? Okay, manager report?
No written report again this time, but I think a lot of what you've already heard this evening is what I've also been working on. For your next meeting, we will likely be bringing you the BSNA migration to the cloud proposal, which is not cheap, but when we look back at history, when we migrated to the .NET version that we're currently on, this proposal actually looks pretty affordable. We're talking a difference of almost 100,000 to this new one at 65,000. So every time we migrate to the next platform, hopefully it's going to be more affordable than the last migration. Also keep in mind, when that last migration happened, we only had tax and assessing. Now we also have a handful of others, including general ledger, utility billing, payroll. There's a few more too that I'm missing, but that's not my lane. So unfortunately, I can't tell you all of them verbatim. And we're also looking at adding 3 new ones as part of this. So, and that includes fixed assets, timesheets, and I'm missing the 3rd one again. The 3rd one actually,
For business licenses.
that's
Oh, yeah.
correct.
Yep.
Adding a business license module so that every year when Eric has to reissue these, he doesn't have to use a spreadsheet. It's database driven, and the system can automatically generate that invoice once the application is received. So
That'll be next agenda?
correct. That in addition to the sheriff's contract, which unfortunately when we received the draft, it was written based on the contract we had 2 years ago, not the current or last year, not the current contract. I don't know that I'm specifically concerned about it, because the biggest change we had made previously was the how the vehicle was going to be purchased, and they ended up arranging it anyway. They just had it invoiced to us, so that was really the change in how it was acquired this time. You may recall that we wanted to have a little bit of control of that, so we were able to get the vehicle we wanted. The attorney has reviewed it. He does have some feedback on it. We can take that up at the first meeting in December.
Yeah, because remember, it's a 5-week month, so we'll have 3 weeks before our next meeting.
Also, the
December
first
6th.
meeting in December will be the budget public hearing, 2024 budget. Truth and taxation, all that good stuff. And by then, we will have the recommended fee schedule complete as well.
It has to be to the paper, what, 2 weeks prior to the meeting or something like
It's,
that?
it's 7 days prior. I sent it to them yesterday with a correction today. We had the year wrong in one spot. I haven't heard back from them yet, though. Hopefully they're not all deer hunting. Maybe they saw that it has to be at least 7 days before our hearing, and it's not as urgent for them yet.
We'll also have, we're kind of putting two items together, but we'll have committee wage increases too next meeting, just so you know. And I think you're gonna do the resolutions for the board too?
Yeah, I have a question for Roger on that. On the resolutions for the officers and the trustee, I wanted to try to put them all in one, or does it have to go separate?
We look at that periodically, and I will resurrect to make sure we get the positively correct answer on that. I know usually we have done it separately.
Yeah, I was just gonna try to do one clean swoop with all of them, if we could at once, but,
Seems like you said last time it had to be separate.
Yeah.
Trustees together and officers.
I will look that up. I've got
Okay.
a file on that.
just let me know, because otherwise I have to generate 4 different resolutions for that, which isn't a problem, just more work for me, of course.
John?
One point to note with this budget cycle, all elected officials are being proposed to get the same percentage increase. Prior years, we have had exceptions to that for various reasons, so not sure if that matters in your research, but thought you should know.
We did last year too, we did the same thing, 2.5. Same as our committees, the committees who'd get paid, get 2.5% also.
Right. The only point I was making, though, is it hasn't always been the case where every elected official was getting the same increase.
Yeah.
I think it was the clerks that we changed most recently.
Deputy clerk and the deputy treasurer, yeah, so we'll have to look at that too, because we bumped it up, and we should actually, with their salary every year, we should increase that by 2.5% if we're gonna do everyone.
In fact, that stipend probably should get caught up too if we didn't do it last year.
Well, it's actually, yeah, it's okay now, because it was a lot different before that.
I think last year we did it. We increased the stipend.
Yeah, well, the stipend was $50 a year, and we
Yeah.
bumped it to 500, so we did appropriately change it. It hadn't been changed for many, many years, so,
Longer than we waited.
yeah, so it was appropriate to bump it to that level.
Okay, is that it, John? Any questions for John? Okay. So usually when we do the motions, we kind of already did the future agenda.
Yeah, so the first motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented. That was approved. Second motion was to remove 8B from the regular agenda, and that was approved as amended. The third motion was to approve the 3 fire department personnel hires. That was approved. The fourth motion was to approve the health insurance renewal. That was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the renewal of the Civic Plus website. That was approved. And the sixth motion was to approve the Marisa millage request, and that was approved.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Anything to share? Gosh. I just need a motion then.
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Support.
All right.
We're gonna let Carl, because he's sitting down the
Yeah,
end.
he's in the chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 6:31.